right, good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to another beautiful episode of your favorite program on TV, Crossfire. And as usual on Crossfire, we bring about issues that are prevailing in the society and news that are making headlines. And we do this by, interacting and criticizing and debating and just trying to throw more light on it so that Nigerians can be educated. And this morning, I am here on the show as usual. I have my co-anchor here, Barrister Ishoma.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the show. Well, I think you said something we criticize. We did not just criticize the government. We try to bring out the best in our government because Nigeria is our own, and if things get better, it will be for our own good.
All right, that's correct. So all we do on this show is to just bring about topics, topical issues that are making headlines.
True.
And over the weekend, a lot of activities took place in Nigeria that is worth talking about. And that's why on this show this morning, we're going to be looking at a topic that is a bit more interesting.
Yes.
Now, you already know that the PDP, the ruling and the reigning government in Nigeria as of today are divided. We have two camps. We have the Bamanga Tuko camp,
yes,
and then we have the Baraji camp.
True.
And you and I would not even know where exactly that our President Jonathan is actually is. Is he on the side of Bamanga Tuko or is he on the side of Baraji? And most importantly, over the weekend, there was a meeting that was put together to address the crisis in PDP,
yes,
so that the transition of the government will be able to achieve, their expectations. But we realized that that was not the case. They had a meeting where a lot of decisions were taken, and at that same meeting, former President Olusegun Obasanjo made some statements by criticizing and putting down the government of Goodluck Jonathan. And that's why this morning on Crossfire, we're going to be looking at this. Obasanjo's regime, Jonathan's regime. Who has achieved more?
Pretty dicey issue there. But for me, I feel former President Obasanjo's regime achieved a whole lot for Nigeria as a country. Nigeria was more stabilized back then than what we have today, security-wise, corruption-wise. Corruption was minimal then. And then also, even health-wise also, look at the health sector. Yeah. And then the economy was much more stable. So for me, I think I'll give it to former President Obasanjo's regime.
Anyway, nice point there, Ishoma, but as usual, once you take a position, I take the other side. And that's why we're going to be looking at, a lot of achievements in the former regime and compared to the recent regime or the current regime. Yeah. And we're going to you have to bring up your very strong reasons, to make you really realize that, Obasanjo actually achieved a lot more than Goodluck Jonathan. Now, I put this to you, Barrister.
Yep.
I know you are well read, and I understand that lawyers argue a lot too. But, this morning, I just want us to educate Nigerians by bringing forth strong points to help compare, the former President Olusegun Obasanjo's, achievements in comparison with a lot of things that President Jonathan has done. I stand on the side of the government, and I know that, you see, Jonathan, as the current president of Nigeria, has achieved a lot. Now, I can call it a very quiet transition into, making Nigeria to emerge as one of the best economies in the world. I have gone into, studying all the things that President Jonathan has put in place, and I have discovered that he has done a lot.
Really?
Listen, I can tell you, there were loads of propaganda. There were loads of propaganda. The press, let me put it that way, unnecessarily blew up the achievements of President Olusegun Obasanjo.
No.
Hold on. And you find out that this is a good time. This is a good time. One of the greatest achievements of Jonathan's administration was for him to come up and say, okay, there's freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say. That was not existing.
And then some months later on, we head over at Abuja and even some parts of Lagos where military men were used to go forcefully, lock down newspaper stations, seize newspapers, just because we were trying to mortgage the truth.
No, that's not correct.
So how would you say?
I disagree with you. There is a bill that has been, looked through properly by the legislative.
But then by the legislative. We all know that was what happened.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can tell me, okay, well, you passed the Freedom of Information Bill, and then later on you're using military power to obstruct the flow of proper freedom.
That's not true.
Of speech
if you look at
and information,
if you take a closer look at what the press went through during the administration of the former president, you will agree with me that press or journalists, let me put it that way, were finding a lot difficult to report activities. Reason is that, see, there were machineries in place. If you carry a news, do you know, even during his regime, one of our stations, was affected at some point in time, when, they carried the news, and all of that. It was during, President Olusegun Obasanjo's regime. And I tell you, as at that time, news and information were extremely caged. I don't want to say managed.
I can validly say the reason why that happened then was because, considering, when issues border on national security, there's some information which should not be made in some certain ways to the public, because as far as that administration is concerned, protecting the peace and stability of the country is more important. Yes, Nigerians need adequate information, but also consider the fact that some information can also cause violence, sectional violence.
When they're not properly managed.
When they're not properly managed. So that was basically what happened then. Not necessarily that information was being mortgaged, but they were trying to curtail how much the public should know to avoid an arrest.
How come no government before President Goodluck Jonathan, assume the role of the first, citizen of this country? How come no president have been able to go the extra mile to establishing, a law governing what people say, how they say it, where they say it, and all of that? Because that is what we're enjoying today. Freedom of speech. Okay. You understand? We have.
But do you really think we have that freedom of speech 100%?
I believe so.
No.
People have said more. People have criticized government. No. People have criticized. There have been more criticism.
And then what happened?
Do you agree with me?
And even while they've criticized government, especially even the legislators, we've seen how military presence and then the police presence, they have gone there, attacking even the highest offices to make sure that our representatives do not represent the interests of Nigerians as a whole. Yes. Now, which is worse? You can't compare the freedom of information and you attacking Nigerians.
I'm going to have to tell you to hold on there. You will continue. We have to go on our first break, and when we come back, we will continue having to exchange, views and having to either criticize or for the government of today. When we come back, we will take it up from there. All right, we want to welcome you back to your show, Crossfire. And I need to say this, President Goodluck Jonathan rejected the recommendation of the 7-man piece led by ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo, which has examined the People's Democratic Party crisis and all of that. And I said earlier on the show that the Baraje faction of the PDP may today take up issues with the Bamanga-Tuko fraction of the, of the interpretation of the status quo and comparing, the regime wherein we have the former president Olusegun Obasanjo and its achievements, and compared with what we have today. Now that we have, Goodluck Jonathan as the first citizen of the country. You were trying to make a point, and we were basically exchanging views on the freedom of speech, the bill that was passed on the freedom of speech. And I said that during Obasanjo's regime, I stand to be corrected, that there were less critics. People were not particularly criticizing the government to the very face of the government like they have done during Jonathan's regime.
And do you know why? And do you know the reason why? Because the government then functioned a lot better. I'm not saying the former administration did 100% good, but I can tell you confidently that things were better off than what we have today.
Okay.
Look at corruption. we all know how the current president on national TV said what Nigerians refer to as corruption is mess stealing. Now, for me and for Nigerians, we view that.
No. Is corruption not stealing?
We view that.
Is corruption not stealing?
What he said was what Nigerians call corruption today
Yes.
is mere stealing, not corruption.
It's
Now,
mere stealing.
that's making an excuse for corruption, for making an excuse for something as grave as corruption. We know that 99% of the problems we are facing in this country today, they all revolve around corruption. Now, you're making a statement for,
Barrister, what in your
No, no,
language?
look,
In your
no,
language,
look,
what is
no,
corruption?
look,
In your
look.
language, what is corruption?
No, wait. Before you ask, okay, what corruption is basically?
Yeah.
Corruption is basically you mortgaging the finances, either tangible or intangible, services.
Okay.
Mortgaging it for your own personal interest rather than for the good of the nation.
That is stealing from people.
That is stealing.
Okay.
And you not doing what you should do. You having to bribe your way. You having to
Do you know why President Goodluck Jonathan
and I can tell,
made
and
that
I,
statement?
and I can tell you, and I can tell you confidently.
He wants
now.
even to
Now,
the grassroots Nigerians to understand what corruption is all about.
During former President Obasanjo's regime,
Yes.
we know he established the EFCC, and then we saw how effective the EFCC were in their campaign against corrupt
EFCC
leaders.
has achieved more during
They
Jonathan's time.
achieved a whole lot more during former President Obasanjo's
How?
regime.
What's the
And I can
yardstick?
tell you.
What's the yardstick?
Now look at putting a man like Nuhu Ribadu,
Yes.
a man who was so dedicated to his task that he even went after his own boss, the former Inspector General of Police, Tafa Balogun.
Yes.
We know how he went against it to make sure that the ridiculous incidences in the police force was brought
How can you
to zero.
prove to me that it
Now
was in the line of his duty that he did that?
Look at former governor.
Hold on, let me ask this question. It will help you buttress your point.
Look at the former governor.
Hold on, it will help you buttress your point. How would you be able to differentiate this activity?
Yeah.
Nuru Ribadu going after Tafa Balogun because it is in line of his duty.
Because he
Hold
needed
on.
to, first of all,
I see it as personal vendetta.
No,
I see it as
not personal.
I see it as personal vendetta.
And that was right. You know what?
I see it as personal vendetta.
Do you know the saying where charity begins at home? I mean, you can't start cleaning someone else's house when your own house is not clean.
I see it as personal vendetta.
That was no person. And then we saw how the police force grew after all that, after exposing all the fraudulent dealings.
Police force never grew. It didn't grow.
Do you want to also talk about? Do you also want to talk about? I mean, under the regime, under the administration of former President Obasanjo, yes, it did grow. Now look at even the increment of their salaries also. Okay. From what it was to what it is today.
Okay, you know what I want
to talking about civil servants also. I mean,
know what I want us to do
our
on this
brothers,
program?
even our brothers in the civil service can confidently say that, oh yes, they enjoy the law. Look at the health sector. I mean, we cannot begin to enumerate all these things because if we fail to tell ourselves
we should enumerate.
If we fail to tell ourselves the truth, then it won't be fair to us.
Why?
It won't be fair.
Now I want you to bring your, bring forth your strong reasons as I pick on one or two things that I just want you to know about the achievements of Goodluck Jonathan regime. He created an enabling environment for good politics under the watch of President Goodluck Jonathan administration. APC was created, which was
hello.
APC was created
under who?
As one of the parties that will contend favorably with the.
But you should also understand that the
party of the day.
APC has been moving in transitional processes, formerly from AD and later on to from AD to the other
CPC.
parties. Yes, to CPC.
Yes.
But then even so, you can't confidently tell me that yes, and look at ACN also.
Okay.
And now where we have APC. So there is no way you can say, you can't attribute that to President Jonathan's regime. It would be so unfair too. Okay. Because that was never a making of this current administration.
Is that correct?
It was never a making.
Anyway, when we come back, we need to go on another break now so that we can come back with our fireback segment where we will take, feedback from viewers, where we will take your point, where we want you to be a part of this show. And as usual, we want you to follow us on all the platforms that you can reach us. You can reach us via email on crossfire at cooltv.cool, and you can tweet to us at crossfire TV. Now, another thing that is very important is that when we come back into this session, we will take your feedback and then we will take the program to another level.
come to the fireback segment. Okay, so as we were discussing earlier on, what other points do you have?
Okay, let me tell
supporting your your favored administration.
He conducted, we had an election that was extremely free and fair in this country, which was the 2011 poll, which was, adjudged by the most credible election of his magnitude.
No, that's so wrong. Nigerians, we know that's so wrong.
Do you know that people went en masse? People went en masse, maybe because of the name, because I remember the scenario. I was talking to my mom.
The same elections where there was a lot of reports about ballot snatching, manipulation of figures.
Every election in Nigeria is characterized with that.
For goodness sake, when would we be able to sit and say, oh, okay, this election
Nigeria has been suffering
probably in the next election.
Leadership almost all our life.
No, true leadership.
Yes,
true leadership.
Anyway, Barrister, I have a couple of...
When we've had a lot of military
I have a couple of information here to pass across because I don't want our viewers to feel left out. Some of them have tweeted us, and we quickly take, some of them. Now, I have Nnamdi. Nnamdi has been a very regular follower of this program. Thank you, Nnamdi, for reaching out to us all the time. We have a feeling that you love this program, and all the time you let us know your thoughts on whatever topic that we're discussing. Now, Nnamdi is saying, he said, the opening of Nigeria to the global business community happened majorly during Goodluck Jonathan's administration.
That's wrong. Very wrong.
Like, seriously?
Very wrong, and I can contend that.
Okay,
also.
Go ahead.
Look at during former President Obasanjo's regime.
Yes.
Obasanjo did his best to
Are you saying
the
more
economy.
businesses?
I can tell you yes.
Are you saying?
I can tell you that
I disagree with you totally.
I can tell you yes.
I disagree
because
with you
that Nigeria was coming from series of military regimes, and President Obasanjo did everything. He laid the foundation, which this current administration is trying to build on. Which hasn't really built on, but
but that's
to
the way it
build on.
should be.
Now look
Did you say he tried to build on it?
Look at the World Bank.
That makes it tense towards...
He appointed even Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala, bringing her from the World Bank to come and spearhead our economy.
Yes.
Now look at even the writing of
Okonjo-Iweala functioned during Obasanjo's regime.
Yes, she did.
She resigned and left. She resigned and left. That's to tell you that she couldn't work with him. She couldn't work with him.
Because she's a woman of integrity. She knew she had her own part to play. And let me tell you something.
So she had a problem with that administration.
She never had a problem with that administration. There's something you should understand, which is so unlike...
She's been working with Jonathan
there is something you should
years.
understand about which is really wrong, which Nigerian leaders we need to understand.
Yes.
America, look at it in European nations. Once they get into power, they do their bit and then they leave because they are confident that they have established a very good structure on ground. They do not need to sit and be in power for 100 years, which is the nature of the African politician.
Let me take this from Tom. Tom is writing to us from Fresta, and he's saying, he said, from the beginning of Jonathan's administration, he said, Nigeria has been rebased its gross domestic product for the first time in over a decade to become the largest economy in Africa, overtaking South Africa,
and guess what?
Egypt,
and guess what?
So
who laid the foundation also? Former President Obasanjo laid down the foundation.
That's to tell you.
Look at.
Jonathan is doing well.
I know. I'm not saying he's doing well. I'm not saying he's doing well. I'm not saying he's not doing well. But I am saying we need to give proper credit to former President Obasanjo because he took his time and he laid down all the structure which this government is trying to build on.
Okay.
Look at even during
former president. He could have come in and not build on them.
But then the structure was laid down by who? Former President Obasanjo.
It doesn't matter.
Look at all our foreign debt.
Good, like Jonathan,
you know also that even we had a lot of foreign debt here and there, which were accumulated from the former military regimes, especially from Abacha's regime.
Yes, that was
He
cancelled.
wrote them all off.
Okay.
He made sure these things were. Look at the health sector. Now, in this current administration, we see how the health sector has been in jeopardy. Strikes here and there. And you should understand one thing, that three things you can never take away from a nation. Or rather, 4 things you can't take away from a nation.
One.
Food, shelter, security, and health.
Okay.
Because our existence revolves around these things. But look I've not even gone to security. I'm still talking about health.
Okay.
Look at how he brought, God rest her soul, Professor Akweli, to make sure that even our medical sector was amazing.
Nice one.
Look at NAFDAC.
Yes.
I can tell you confidently that people you could feel so safe to to take some certain drugs, but today you can't, because we've had incidences of even fake
I don't want to discourage
unlicensed pharmaceutical companies even bearing NAFDAC numbers. How did they get this thing? Now that is the story that they are right now. I can tell you that even the health sector is compromised.
Okay,
during that regime, it was never so.
I don't want our followers, to feel bad about this. I'm going to take this very last one. This person wrote, Adeyinka from Oshodi is writing. He said, revival of the comatose railway system. Jonathan has been working on another means of transportation for Nigerians.
Is it currently serving?
Oh, no, it's on the way.
How many years?
They've gone really very far.
How far?
It's on the way.
Why is it if Nigeria, look at during former President Obasanjo's regime, he brought MTN to Nigeria. He made sure he established, even the telecommunication industry. And even from his regime up to now, we are still using it. He made sure it came at the right time. Anyway, he made sure it was functioning. So why won't you give this man credit?
Anyway, thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Barrister. Sometimes, on this show, we just don't know how time flies.
True.
And I tell you, we have a lot of things to say, but time will just not permit us. Once again, we want to say a very big thank you for as many viewers who are following us. It's our show, it's your show. We bring about debatable topics, and we try to put Nigerians in a position that will make them take good decisions and to know exactly where to go and where not to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come again, on our show, and we just want to say thank you for viewing, and bye-bye for now. Join us tomorrow morning on the same station and the same time, and then let's do it as usual. Thanks, Barrister.
You're welcome. God bless you, Nigeria.